Welcome to this session of Project Management and Publishing webinar series. Today, we're going to be talking about how to deposit your graduate thesis or graduate work, in fact. My name is Liz Svoboda. I am the Instruction and Outreach Librarian, and I will be guiding this session. And I'm actually the person who works with depositing the thesis, so you're in good hands here. If you have any questions, please feel free to pop those in the chat. I will be monitoring that, but if you feel comfortable, we will hold some time at the end for those questions as well. Okay, so what we're going to talk about is, what basically this whole process is. What does it mean? Why should you do it? When do you do it? What do you kind of need to do during this process? And then what happens after you kind of submit your work and everything. So just to kind of lay the groundwork, the depositing your work is basically, it's the process that archives and shares your graduate thesis if you're going for a dissertation, or possibly some programs might call it a capstone, and you're putting it into separate kind of collections. One is Deep Blue, which is the University of Michigan's institutional repository. This is kind of the scholarly, it's supposed to be the scholarly record of the university. There's kind of two sections to this, documents and data, but most of your work is going to be going to the documents section. And again, it's just kind of this really good repository of the university's work, including both faculty, staff, and graduate work. There's also a lot of archival material in there. The other database that you're actually going to be working a little bit more directly with is a ProQuest Dissertations and Theses Global database. This is the largest database of dissertations and theses in the world, and a lot of other universities subscribe to it. We actually subscribe to it as well. This process is kind of responsible or put on the shoulders of graduate students after they've completed their final project here. But it will be completed with some extra steps from myself as well as the graduate program staff. So I get a lot of questions like, why is this necessary? Why do I need to do this? Basically, you're just kind of establishing a scholarly record for yourself. Now, this is more important if you are going on, if you're getting your master's and you're going on to your PhD, it's really helpful for that. Or if you are trying to go into a research space, but even if you are going into a corporate or a government job or something else like that, having it on a resume or a CV is a good thing to have. So we do these two sections. Again, ProQuest Dissertations and Theses Global is, again, the largest collection in the world. They're actually the people who kind of helped us with our initial kind of backlog of digitizing the theses here. But they also have this really easy kind of form or process that we'll demo in a little bit that actually gets all the information that you need in order to deposit your thesis. Deep Blue, on the other hand, is mostly open access, but it does give you a DOI and a stable link that are easily shared with others. So if you did want to share a digital copy of your work, you can do that. The other thing to note is that Deep Blue is indexed by Google Scholar, which again is a huge research tool outside of your traditional university or library databases as well. So when do you do it? You need to have defended your work to your committee, or your advisors would have to have signed off on it if you aren't going through the formal defense. And this can happen, the actual process of depositing can happen in the last semester of your career here, or even after your graduation date. I would always suggest doing it sooner rather than later, just so that you kind of don't forget in the whirlwind of graduation, which yay, that you are actually able to kind of put this last little period on your work here at UM-Flint. So there are a couple of things that you'll need to do to prepare the process. All right, so you're going to need a good, clean copy PDF of your written work. So again, this is for those people who are doing a really kind of formal, traditional thesis or dissertation where it's, multiple chapters, multiple pages long. It's you're not necessarily going to submit this to a journal. This is the full report that you've put out. So you'll need a full PDF of that. You'll need an abstract or a summary of this. So this could, sometimes you will have already written an abstract for it. Sometimes if you haven't actually written one, a paragraph from your introduction someplace will have, that kind of summary nature. So we're just going to pull that directly out of the work that you've done already. You might have some supplementary files. So additional images or data or something, you can submit those through ProQuest. And then I might actually need a little bit of, I might actually have you come in and help me put those through Deep Blue Data because it's a slightly different deposit process, but so far we haven't run into that. Most people just have everything in one PDF, which is great. The other thing that you might want to include is a signature page with your committee members' names on it. Now, we have some actually on the graduate program site. It has an example of this whole process, including some templates for everything that you'll need, like for how like the title page and signature page should work. But again, if you want like the actual official signatures on a page, you can upload that separately as its own PDF, or if you have the ability, you can like include that in, the full the one PDF of your work. You will need, the full list of your advisors or committee members. You'll need to actually decide on some subject categories that will describe your academic field, whether you're, in educational administration, whether you're in wildlife biology, whether you're computer science, whether you're in public health. There's up 1 to 3 of those subject categories will kind of help describe your work. ProQuest actually has a list of these, which I'll show you in a second. And then you'll also need up to 6 keywords that are going to describe, what you actually did. So these are going to be more specific than the kind of subject categories they are. And a lot of the time when you're looking at this, you're thinking about who or what was studied. So if you're looking at a specific population, high school students, African-American middle-aged women, are you looking at a particular species? Are you looking at a particular cell strain, anything like that? A location, are you based in Flint? Are you in mid-Michigan? Are you looking in a rural or urban area? Those kind of things. A particular method that you used, and even like a specific academic field that you're in. So if you're in wildlife biology, are you also in like ecology? Are you looking at conservation? For our ed students out there, are you looking more at high school versus elementary school, right? Or early childhood education. So again, things to think about. The keywords are a little bit more loosey-goosey. The subject ones you will actually kind of be able to choose from a predefined list in ProQuest. So let me actually bring those over here. So the first thing I'm going to show you is this is the graduate program's intranet site, and I've got a link to this later on in your the presentation. But basically, if you go to intranet.umflint.edu and search for graduate programs, you'll need to log in. This is kind of like an internal storage area for the college or the university. There's on their page, there's this how to submit your graduate thesis and dissertation section, and it goes kind of through this step by step, and additionally has, links out to ProQuest ETD Administrator, which is the program that I'm going to show you in a minute here that will actually, have you where you put all your information in and submit your thesis. It has the different steps that you'll need, including this subject category list, which I've actually already opened up, and you'll see that it is kind of broken down by major areas. So arts, education, humanities, social science are all on this first page, and we'll take education here. That you've got early childhood, you've got curriculum development, elementary education, higher education, middle school, teacher education, all these kind of things that you could choose. And then down below on additional pages, you'll see things that are listed as, behavioral, natural, physical sciences. So things like the health and medical science sciences are here, biology is over here. So this is kind of a formatted list that you have to choose from in order to suggest your subject term, okay? Couple other things to note on this intranet page is that we do have full instructions for submitting your graduate thesis. I've got access to it, but it is a published Google Doc that you're able to see, and it kind of takes you through step by step, each screen at a time. I do need to update a couple of the screens because ProQuest has updated their interface a little bit, but it goes through and kind of explains some of the options you have. So if you forget or don't want to rewatch this entire program, all of that information is here. There's also some helpful links that are down below. So it talks about some publishing resources and guidelines that are coming through. We need to update this one. There we go. There's a couple of resources and guidelines that come through ProQuest ETD that we've uploaded in here, including the subject categories, some comparisons of things, as well as a title page example, but that is also listed here. So this is just a really short sample of a couple of different options that you have if you did want to include one of these. These are things that we've seen quite a bit from other students. The other thing is if you are a Rackham graduate program, I think liberal studies and public admin are the only two that we have on campus. Don't quote me on that. But there is like some specific formatting guidelines that Rackham will hold those to, but we don't. So if you did want a little bit more information about like how a thesis is normally formatted or some of those things, that's also listed here. So this is a great place to kind of get this information after you started, or like as you're collecting this information that you need before you start your deposit. Okay, so we're going to do a live demonstration in a moment here, but let's actually go, like, once you've collected all the information that you need prior to starting your submission, what does the actual submission process look like? So you're going to create an account within ProQuest ETD Administrator, and it's pretty simple. You need your name, your institute, your school's institution, all that kind of stuff within, and it's a pretty easy guide through there. ProQuest is also going to ask you to make some decisions about how you want your work shared. There's going to be decisions that are related to how ProQuest handles your work, as well as some decisions as how I need to make Deep Blue handle your work, okay? You'll need some additional contact information, the information about your work, so title, your author, your abstract, committee, all those subjects and all those key terms, you're going to enter all of those in. You'll make some additional decisions if you whether want to register your copyright or not. And you can also actually order physical copies of your work. So if you don't want, just plain computer paper, you wanted a nice like bound copy, you could actually order that through ProQuest as well. So let's switch over here to the live demo. So again, this is linked through the grad program's internet ProQuest ETD administrator. This is the program that you're going to use. I already have logged in here. And so this is what the site looks like. I'm going to bump this up so you can see it a little bit easier. Your profile and information should be up here. You should always see the Office of Graduate Programs logo in the upper corner to make sure that you're in like our version of this space, not another institution's. And then you should be able to access things like profiles. Since I'm an administrator, I have some additional access here, but you should definitely be able to see student role as well as like my profile and log out under here. Okay. Initially, when you'll see the screen, you'll actually be asked to like create an account in the upper corner instead of seeing your profile. So again, pretty standard for creating any account that you've ever made. Once you're down here, you can actually, continue a submission or begin a new submission. So I've already got a couple that are, test ones that I'll put in here, but this is all the type of things that you're going to need to ask. So again, it gives you that kind of list of things that you'll need: PDF copy, abstract, supplementary files, committee members' names, subject and key terms, right? Pretty standard. Then you're going to go on and you're going to decide what kind of publishing type that you want. So the traditional one is the free version. This is what I would suggest you doing, okay? For one reason, actually two reasons. It's free to you, and Deep Blue is going to cover that open access option for you, right? Deep Blue is an open access repository. That means that anybody will be able to access it through Deep Blue without paying for it, okay? And that's also at no cost to you, right? Like you don't have to pay for this. Now, if you are really committed to having your work with that open access option, no matter what database it is in, you can actually pay ProQuest to have it as an open access thing. But notice that there's some differences within this, right? So they've kind of listed it out pretty well, or pretty clearly, that it's going to be, traditional is only available within those who have to those who have a subscription to the database. Open access, it's available to anyone. How you actually access it. So on the web through the database, they also do indexing through Google Scholar and Web of Science. Open access, it's going to be available to anybody through those options as well as through the database, and again, at a free cost to the user. You can purchase multiple options here. And this is actually for people as well. So if like someone comes across your dissertation and wants a physical copy of it, they can purchase something through ProQuest as well. The one thing that I would really kind of consider here is the royalties. So if you go the traditional publishing route, because ProQuest is getting paid for your content, you are eligible to a certain amount of money if depending on how many times your work is downloaded. Okay, and if you click on information here, it gives you more information about what those actual royalties are and the kind of limitations to it. It's not a ton of money, but you do get a little back once a year, or some people will get money back once a year. And the other thing is down here is that you will get both options will, go through plagiarism checkers or will get some protection through Turnitin, so that like your work is kind of added to that database to get checked against. The other thing to note is that you have non-exclusive. So you are not giving them the copyright to your work at all. You're just giving them a non-exclusive right, which means you can give this right to other people to, kind of archive your work, preserve it, as well as distribute it. Okay. And again, you can view more information about this. Now, this is great if you want that immediate release of your work. Okay. So this is what I would suggest, is just doing the traditional route. So you do get that little bit of money. And again, that open access is taken care of by Deep Blue. If for some reason you need to delay the release of your work, or what it's called putting an embargo on it, typically it's like if you're if you're working with a professor and they want to publish a journal article that like kind of ties in with your work before your work is being done. A lot of times, if you're working with a patent, you'll need to kind of delay the release of your work, like to make sure that it goes through. So if you did need to do that, you can say, no, I have other reasons, or I have reasons why I don't want the immediately accessed. And then you've got, do I want to delay it by 6 years, 1 year, or 2 years? There is an other there, but typically 1 to 2 years, like the max 2 years, should be fine. I have not seen this go through very much. I haven't seen a lot of people using it, but I think the most of the time it's about six months to a year. You just give us a little reason, and then you actually, give us kind of a reason here. So again, there's a few things few reasons that might kind of pop up as well. Okay. All right. So I'm going to stick, for the sake of this example, I'm going to stick with my traditional role, and I'm going to stick with, yes, I want immediate access to, or what this immediately to go forward to ProQuest. Save and continue. Select a traditional one. I'm not entirely sure what's going on. It might be because this is an old option, but we'll just go forward to the next agreement here. So after you click save, you'll basically, this is the agreement that, again, you'll need to accept in order to move forward. And it basically is pretty boilerplate that it's, the non-exclusive right to reproduce, distribute, display, and transmit the work. Not only as PDFs, but if there's ever something that kind of replaces PDFs, they have that option there. And again, there's some restrictions here, but it's, again, pretty traditional, pretty standard. It also explains that royalties here, so you'll need to accept that in order to move forward with this deposit. Okay. The next section is you're going to go into your institutional repository. And again, you have that option of, yes, put this in immediately, or no, I have some patents pending, or I have something else that I need to option. And again, it's the 6 months, 3 months to a year. We typically don't go longer than a year with Deep Blue. So again, just keep that in mind. And again, it has similar reasons to why you might want to delay your release here. And the next page just explains a little bit more about Deep Blue and what you're actually agreeing to, which is basically really similar, except that or to what you're doing with ProQuest, except that instead of ProQuest, the company, you're doing this with the Regents of the University of Michigan, right? So it's not just U of M-Flint, but it's kind of a Regents, our governing body. And again, it's a non-exclusive right, so you can give this right to other people, including ProQuest, to retain, reproduce, and distribute your work throughout the world. And again, this is an open access option that you're doing here. And there's more information about Deep Blue as it comes down here, okay? Then you just got a little check, oops, excuse me, a check and save and continue at the very bottom. Okay. Then here, contact information, right? First name, last name, pretty standard, everything that you've seen. You can include an ORCID ID, and if you don't know what an ORCID ID, this is kind of like creating a unique identifier for yourself that it will kind of follow you along throughout your different institutions. You can throw this on a resume or a CV. You can put it in like ResearchGate, other things. A lot of people use it because again, if your name is similar to someone else's and you want to make sure, no, this is me versus everything else, it kind of helps you claim your work as you're putting it out there. Another thing for a lot of for people who are getting married, if you are going through like a name change or something, but you want to retain and you publish under those two different names, this will kind of identify you there as well. Anything that has the cute little red star next to it is required. You'll notice that ORCID is not. So if you have it, it's great. If not, that's cool too. But you definitely need first name, last name, your institutional student ID, which is your UMID number, that 8-digit number that you have, a permanent email address, as well as your school address, okay? So if you are going to be using at UMich for everything, or if you have like a Gmail or Yahoo or some other account, you could put that in there. Your mailing address, they do need this to send you royalty checks, okay? So make sure that this is an up-to-date emailing address as well. And then at the very bottom, you could add in some content about like if you want more advertising emails from ProQuest, which I probably wouldn't check this if I was you. Okay. All right. So after you put in all your contact information, this is where we get into that information about your thesis. Okay. So first off, what you write it in, most likely going to be English. Okay. You're going to put in your title as it's displayed on your dissertation and thesis. The one thing that I would change though is that don't put it all in capitals. Okay. I would use either like title case, which means that, you know, every noun or important words, so like not or like prepositions or articles or prepositions may not be capitalized, but I would use title case instead of having it completely capitalized. This is really good for citation generators. So, because if you have everything capitalized, they won't necessarily recognize them as anything but like they might not recognize it correctly. So I would again suggest title case for your title instead of all caps or all lowercase or something. This is where you're going to paste in that abstract or summary in here as well. If you have translated your abstract for some reason, you can add in an additional one here, but that is again not necessary. All right, then you've got, when did you complete your manuscript? Was it last year or was it earlier this year? When is your degree date, right? So is this going to be April of 2024? Is this December of 2023? Is it going to be later in August? Any of that? It's going to ask you for the degree that's awarded, and these should all be up-to-date degrees that we offer here at the University of Michigan-Flint. If you're missing something, let me know, and I can have ProQuest go in and update it. But typically, everything should be in here, okay? You'll need your department. Again, we think we've got the full list in here, but if you see anything that's missing or you need me to add in something, please let me know. I know that there's a couple of things coming online with within CIT. So again, we're going to try to keep this as up to date as possible. This is where you're going to choose those categories. So you need your primary category. This is the big overarching one. So if you are in elementary ed and all of your work is with elementary ed, you're going to put this first. If you are in computer science or in computer architecture or something, you're going to want this first here. And again, this is a list that you'll need to choose from. And you can actually start like typing in here. So to kind of move down and get to a lower down the alphabet instead of just scrolling through. Okay. This is where you're going to enter those keywords too. Okay. So again, these are more about like what the nitty gritty of your work is, not the kind of overarching subjects of it. Information about your advisors and your committee members. So if you've only got the 2 advisors, you can put them here. Again, if you've got like a chair and then multiple committee members, you'd put the chair up top here and then the committee members down below. It really depends on the different programs here on campus, how many people you have in your committee. Typically, there's at least 2. I've seen all the way up through like 6 people when they've had to have multiple people kind of come in and look at it to make sure that like their different sections are meeting standards or like have been researched well or whatever. But you can actually add up to 10 committee members if you really want to. So plenty of space here. Okay. Again, save and continue as you go forward. This is where you're going to update or upload your PDF, excuse me. So you just upload a file, pretty standard. So if you had to ask for permission to reproduce an image or some sort of graph or something else within your dissertation, you would also upload the permissions that you received here. I haven't seen that a lot with our students, but again, if you did have to request it, you can put that in here. If you have additional supplemental files, so, you know, an Excel file of data or a bunch of, excuse me, like images or something else that you kind of want to put in here, you could do that as well. Again, I haven't seen this. If the other thing that you might want to put in here is if you weren't able to kind of include your signed thesis signature page in your the full PDF of your thesis, you could upload that here as its own file and I can add it in. I've got that software myself. And then if you want to put any notes to either the grad program staff member who goes through this or me, you could put that here. We could get a notification when things are submitted. Okay. Then it's going to ask you questions about copyright. Okay. So without doing anything, you own the copyright to your work. Okay. So you do not have to do this step at all. Registering your copyright adds a little bit of extra protection if you want to do that. However, it is not free. Okay. So you can actually submit the copyright yourself through the copyright.gov, through the US Copyright Office, or you can have ProQuest do it for you. And again, it's an additional fee here if you have them do it for you. So again, this is not required that you do it. You own the copyright. It's just this little added protection if you want it, but most people don't bother, okay? The other thing you can do at this point is you can pre-order copies. So there's a couple of different options. You can either have these nice hardcovers in a couple of varieties of sizes as well, or the soft covers, couple of varieties of sizes. And there's all these options down here. So if you wanted multiple copies, you could do that, hand them out as Christmas gifts or whatever. Or if you only want a copy for yourself, that's cool too. The university does not provide a hard copy of your work. We took that fee away because it's harder and harder for us to bind small batches of things. The library will print a physical copy for our collection and we'll get that bound, but it takes us several years to kind of to pull together enough stuff that makes it like the trip to the bindery worthwhile. So we're not going to be able to supply that for you at all, but ProQuest, again, you'll be able to order it if you'd like. Again, you do not have to, though. You can always decline the pre-order. So once you have everything submitted, or if you're like me and I haven't quite put everything in, it's going to ask, oh, you need some information on these other pages here. So you could go back and come in. You also don't have to do this all in one sitting, okay? You can, save this and come back to it. It's always going to kind of be here, and you'll be able to go in and finish it at a later date if you need to. But it's a pretty straightforward process, in my opinion. And then after you submit it, that's when myself and my colleagues in graduate programs actually kind of take over the process, okay? So what do we do? I will double check your submission. So like usually it's like you put like you didn't put like last time I actually sent something back to someone to like fix, they put like their ORCID ID instead of their UMID number. Okay, that's it. I might go in and make sure that the abstract is formatting correctly. If you don't have the requisite like up to 3 subject terms or up to 6 keywords, I might go in and fix those a little bit. Or if I think they're kind of repetitive between the subject categories and the keywords, I might go through your abstract a little bit more and try to find some additional ones that I think would work. But typically I do not do a ton to it at all. But then I use all that information that you've uploaded or that you've entered, and then I will go in and deposit your work into Deep Blue for you. There's a particular thesis collection that I need to deposit that stuff in. And then again, I will print a copy for the library's physical collection, and that will eventually get bound and added to our physical collection. Grad program staff, they leave a lot of the heavy duty work to me. They'll just kind of send it on to ProQuest for ProQuest processing, which they go through and they do a little bit more. Again, they might adjust subject terms or keywords a little bit. They'll make sure that like the PDF meets all sorts of standards and stuff, everything like that. And then once your PDF is, or once your thesis has been uploaded to their database, you'll get a notification from ProQuest to say, hey, you're in. That's good. So that's all that it is, really. So if you need help, the graduate program's intranet page has all that documentation, has the full list of everything. And we also have a frequently asked questions on the library homepage. I'll pull over in here, but it really does just kind of take you back to the guide on the UM-Flint intranet page. It gives you a little bit more information about Deep Blue documents, and also has, you know, some additional information for contact with me, everything like that. But again, if you do need to contact me, here is my email address, as well as you can make either an online or an in-person appointment with me as well. Thank you for watching this recorded webinar. Find upcoming webinars to register for at libcal.umflint.edu.